Hello and welcome back to the Dandelion Diaries. Today we have another inxploration, and today is all about the bright blues because I don't think anybody's collection is complete without a bright blue. Blue ink is so fun to write with, and as you can see, I have plenty of samples that we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be a bit overzealous and try to fit 11 swatches on 2 pages, and we'll see how I do. But I don't have a single full bottle of blue ink, and that is because, as you'll see at the end, I can't decide which one to go with. So maybe you guys can help me out in the comments if there's any recommendations you have. If you're interested in any of the previous inspirations I've done, I will link a playlist down below. But as for supplies, we have a 𝗬𝗏 A5 notebook. This has the Tomoe River paper. I have a little condiment cup, which is the inspiration from Leanne Likes videos. Today's writing utensil is a glass tip pen. This is the Jacques Herbin one in the coral color that I got from Atlas Stationers. I do have a code for 10% off in the description. I have an eyedropper that I'm going to use to swatch the inks, and then I have a little jar of water over here just to help clean off all of my materials. I do have 3 shimmer inks, so we're going to do those last, just so that way I don't contaminate my water too bad. But for our first sample, we're going with a cult favorite, which is going to be the Pilot Iroshizuku Peki. And I can totally understand why this is such a popular ink. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is vibrant. It has a red sheen. It's just, I can totally get it. I do have I have the full bottles of Pilot Iroshizuku Inoho and the Tsukushi, the 2 discontinued brown inks they had. And I really do like that you get so much ink in the bottle, but at the same time, it's going to take me a while to get through those. So I haven't committed to a full bottle of a blue Pilot Iroshizuku ink yet, but I do love their inks for sure. The next bright blue ink is another cult favorite, or if you haven't tried this one, you need to. It is Organic Studios Nitrogen, and I believe this is a bestseller on Goulet pens, which is where I got this sample from, and I can totally understand why. The sheen on this bad boy is crazy. It's like this bright red with this deep blue base. It is absolutely gorgeous. And out of all of the samples I have, this is one I really considered getting a full bottle of, just because I don't have a full bottle of Organic Studio yet. But I also really like the Walden Pond Henry David Thoreau Organic Studio as well, because I love teal. I think I like teal a little bit more than blue, if I'm being honest. But it's just, when this dries, the sheen on it, you will understand what I'm saying. It is absolutely gorgeous. The next sample that I have is another one that's pretty commonly known, and that is Waterman Serenity Blue. I'm not a huge fan of this blue. It's a little too muted for what I want to consider as a bright blue, but it is still very gorgeous in that it's almost like a jewel color, like a sapphire blue in my opinion. It's quite interesting too. Again, it does have a red sheen. Most of the inks that I'm going to be swatching have a red sheen, just because I think that's very common with blue inks. But you'll see, like, compared to the other 2, it's much more cool blue. It's much more of like a bright, natural gemstone blue. I really do like the Waterman inks though, just because they are a little bit more well-behaved, I feel like, than some of the other inks. Same with the Pilot Iroshizuku inks. Those are also very well-behaved. I haven't had any issues in some of the pens that I've used with the other inks I have, but I will say certain brands that are cult favorites tend to be really well-behaving inks. The next sample that I have is Private Reserve American Blue. And I am in the US, so this was kind of a fun sample that I got, and this was part of the Surprise Me samples that Goulet sends out. I did not pick this one myself, and I'm really glad they sent it to me just because it's very interesting. It is so deep blue. If you like Private Reserve's 2 Minutes to Midnight, which was discontinued, this is a very close match. And I will say this one doesn't bleed as much as the 2 Minutes to Midnight did. but it's unique in its own way, right? Like every bright blue has its own unique properties, but this one is just, when I think of the American flag, this is definitely American flag blue, and they did a really good job with the color on this. I will also say that Private Reserve inks are a little bit wetter in my experience. They seem to have a little bit more of a fluidity to them than some of the other brands. Okay, so the rest of the samples that I have are ones that I haven't really seen much love for on the internet. So I wanted to give them their 15 minutes of fame, if you will. But the first one is Sailor Manyo's Konagi. And oh my goodness, I love. So if you haven't tried some of the Sailor Manyo inks, they have some of them have dual shading properties or chroma shading. And it is so fun to watch them dry on the page, especially if you have the Tomoe River paper. I've noticed that they chroma shade the best on the Tomoe River paper versus like Rhodia or the Clairefontaine. But just, if you can get your hands on some samples of the Sailor Manyo inks, they are stunning. And also in my experience, the Sailor inks tend to be a little bit more fluid, a little bit wetter in pens, and I absolutely love that, especially if I have like a bold or something that I'm writing with, or a broad, or even a double broad. It showcases the properties of the chroma shading so well, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So hopefully while I swatch the other ones, you can watch this one dry, and it's going to be so pretty. All right, so next is a Vanessa sample, and I'm only able to find some of these brands at Vanessa, and this is one of them, and that is Pennonia. The brand is Pennonia, but this is number 026. I can't pronounce this, but it's probably Kekfeny Blue Light, and oh my goodness, the sheen. I have another one too that we're going to be swatching, and the sheen is so high that it's almost like not even blue anymore because the sheen is so red that it just becomes entirely red sheen. It is so interesting to watch them dry. I'm not kidding. It's just, they're beautiful. And you can already probably see on that Organic Studio the drying time and that red sheen popping out already. It's gorgeous. But I absolutely love this color, and I have a couple of Pennonia inks that also do similar things like the Sailor Manyo, where they have that chroma shading. It's just so interesting. There's so many inks to try, and maybe that's why I can't commit to a full bottle of blue ink yet, but oh my goodness, you'll just have to take my word for it. So moving on into the left page, or the right page here, I guess, we are going to do one of the Colorverse inks, and this one is number 14, Supernova. And it's probably the lightest blue out of all of the bright blues that I have. It may be, I don't know, Konpeki may be the lightest, but I really like this color. I mean, obviously all of these are bright blue and they're all beautiful. But with the Colorverse inks, I feel like the colors they share are so unique in their own way. If you've tried any of their recent releases, I got the Monkey Head Nebula. It is so pretty, and I did get the glistening with the I think it's rose gold glistening. It's so pretty. But this one is just, I don't know, there's something about it that's unique compared to all the others. Plus, when I think of Supernova, I think of the like astronauts in space, right? And how they basically come back to Earth and everything is different, and there's a supernova that blew up everything in the sky. I mean, what color would that actually be? Would it be black, or would it be blue? Would it be yellow? I don't know. And if you've watched some of my Plan With Me videos, you'll know how much I adore astrology, and the fact that this is based like a name from space is kind of cool to me. And I actually did want to get some of their other more space-themed named inks, I guess. I know I probably shouldn't go based on the name, but sometimes they're so interesting, I just can't help myself that I want to try them out. No! Dang it. How does that always happen? Sad. Okay, luckily I have a paper towel ready. Oh my gosh, now we're just gonna make a mess. Okay, pause the video real quick. Okay, well, that was a mess, and unfortunately 𝗏𝘃𝗁 is now kind of unreadable, but that's okay. It does happen, and I still have a good amount of sample left. I don't know if you'll be able to see. Maybe, yeah. So I still have a good maybe like 1 or 2 mils in there, so I can still use it, but man, that's kind of disappointing. But it was bound to happen on one of these videos. Luckily, I have my journal in a clear cover, so I don't have to worry about that ink staining the cover of this. And the desk that I use is pretty much like a plasticky material, so I don't have to worry about it staining wood or anything. So whew, that was a close one. My poor hand, though, is definitely bright blue now, so yeah, it's okay. Moving on. Now we're going to get to the inks that okay, this is that one ink I was talking about with the red sheen that is just absolutely insane. And that it's a Vinta ink, or Vinta, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but it's Dugong 𝗏𝗏 or 𝗏𝗏, I'm not really sure. But the sheen on this thing is so crazy. So let me go ahead and swatch it for you guys, and you will see what I'm saying. And hopefully we won't have any more spills. At least not on camera, because that is kind of embarrassing. But I'm definitely closing the lid now. We're not going to have any more spills because, you know, I cherish these since I don't have a full bottle. This ink is so vibrant, and I think with the vibrancy of the ink itself and then also with the sheen that it has, it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And out of all of them, honestly, it's between Nitrogen and this Vinta one that I have been debating on getting a full bottle of. And I might go with the Vinta just because it's a little bit underknown, or I feel like I don't see it as much on like ink swatch videos. This ink is crazy. And the last 3 inks I have are all shimmer inks. And the first one I want to talk about is probably the darkest out of the entire group, and that is 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 Columbia Blue Copper. And this is just, it's such a unique ink. I guess because it's more of like the Serenity blue, it's more of that jewel-toned bright blue, but it has the copper shimmer in it, which adds so much. It's so beautiful. And I will say, with my experience in 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 inks, is they are very wet. These are juicy. Like if you have a very dry pen, put 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 ink in it. Every single one that I have tried has been so wet, so fluid that I've never had any issues whatsoever with skips, dry writing, nothing. So if you need a really wet ink, I would test out the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 brand and see what you think. But it is, as you can see, like on the page, it is so close to the Waterman Serenity Blue, but at the same time, it has this copper shimmer to it when it dries, and it's so pretty. As for our next sample, this is Ferris Wheel Press, Tumbling Time Blue. And this was a favorite that they actually just restocked recently. I was able to get this sample from Vanessa, but if I wanted to get a full bottle, Atlas had them, at the time of this video, Atlas still had them in stock. But I really like this blue. It's bright blue with the red sheen and the silver blue glitter. It's so unique on its own. And again, I think this one, like if I had to pick a shimmer, it's definitely between, I don't know, all 3 of them. This is hard. This is why I can't decide on a full bottle, guys. This is why I need your help. But Tumbling Time Blue is so bright. It's just fabulous. When I think of this ink, the Ferris Wheel Press Tumbling Time Blue, I really do think of like a dark starry night sky. It's not as dark as like their Stroke of Midnight ink, but it is definitely on the darker bright blue side. And I think that's what makes it so unique, that it's that darker blue with the red sheen and then the shimmer. It actually is more like a sapphire color to me than anything else on the page. And our last ink is from the Diamine 2022 Green Ink Vent Calendar, and it is Arctic Blast. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I talked about this, the ink vent, because Atlas has the full bottles now, and I purchased a full bottle of the Solar Storm, but this was my closest second choice. And again, it's the bright blues. I can't decide whether I want a full bottle or not because there's so many and they're all so beautiful. It makes it super challenging. But the Solar Storm is, when I do my purple videos, I will include the Solar Storm. It is so pretty. And it's a chameleon ink. And the Arctic Blast is a chameleon as well. So this one is chameleon and sheen. So when it dries, you will get to see the awesomeness that is this ink. It is so stunning. And I don't know. Like I said, I have a problem. I can't choose a full bottle. And I guess this counts as a full bottle because it's more than, it's like 12 milliliters from the ink vent. But I'm struggling, you guys. I will also say, out of all of the shimmer inks, I find that the diamine shimmers do very well with the performance in ink, like in pens, versus like the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 inks I've had a little bit of trouble with, and the Robert Oster I've had a little bit of trouble with, just with like priming the pens and making sure they write well enough. But when it comes to like shimmers that are well behaved, diamine does really well, and then Ferris Wheel Press. I've never had a problem with the Ferris Wheel Press inks and their shimmers. I think it has to do with the fineness of the shimmer, maybe. Not super sure, but they always seem to behave a lot better. Okay, so I'm going to let these finish drying. Some of them are already dry since I had that spill, but I'm going to let these finish drying, and then I will come back and show you guys close-ups of all of their cool properties and how they look dried down. So I'll see y'all in a bit. Okay, so it has been, I guess, probably about an hour maybe. It did take a little bit longer for these to dry, I guess because of the shimmer. You can already see them. Anyways, I'm going to zoom you guys in and we're going to review each one and you will see how beautiful these inks are. So starting on the left page, we had the first swatch, which was Pilot Iroshizuku Peki. And you can kind of see how that little minor red sheen is in there. And it's this beautiful, almost cerulean blue color. It's just dreamy. And it is probably a pretty standard ink compared to some of the other ones I have swatched. But it is gorgeous. And the Pilot Iroshizuku inks just handle themselves very, very well. Oop, I got some ink there. And then we moved on to the Organic Studio Nitrogen, and look at that red sheen. Even on the writing sample with the glass tip pen, it's just stunning. I mean, like I said, I don't have a single bottle of any of these, and Organic Studio is one of the ones I'm really tempted to just get the bottle and dive in. Moving on, we went into Waterman's Serenity Blue, and it's like a sapphire. It's muted, it's beautiful, it's toned down, but still interesting with that minor reddish black sheen. And even in the writing sample, it's just really, really pretty. We then had the Private Reserve American Blue, standard bright blue color, minor red sheen. Overall, I think this would be really good as like a work appropriate blue ink just because of its light sheen and it's pretty dark blue, so it's pretty, I don't know, I feel like it's a good work ink if you have to pick something that's more work appropriate. We then moved on into the Sailor Manyo line, which I absolutely love. Look at the shade on that. It's so beautiful. No chroma shading with this one. It just has that deeper blue versus lighter blue, and it has a fairly minor red-black sheen on it as well. Hopefully the camera can pick it up. It's just, I love the Manyo ink so much. And then we moved on into more of the less popular inks, or less talked about in my opinion. And this one was one of the Pennonias. This is 026 in that Kekfeny Blue Light, and it's just, it speaks for itself. I mean, the way the writing sheens when I turn the page, it's so similar to the Organic Studio, but it's not as bright. So if you wanted something a little bit more muted, this is definitely up your alley. And then we're going to move on to the left page, which was all of the really exciting inks in my opinion. And the first one was the Colorverse Supernova, and you can already see the Vinta flashing, geez. But it has that red sheen, nowhere near as bright as the two next to it, but it is so pretty in the deep color of the Supernova. Honestly, it's very similar to the Pennonia. If I had put those two right next to each other, they are very, very close. So if you could get your hands on one and not the other, they're very similar. But let's move on to the Vinta because it's just taking over here. When I swatched it, I told you the red sheen on this is crazy. And I don't even know if you could classify this as blue because of the amount of sheen it has. It is so beautiful. It's like a ruby reflecting off the page with how red it is. Again, I don't have a full bottle, but I'm so tempted just because of how gorgeous this ink is. I could stare at its flash all day. Then let's move on into our shimmers. This was the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 Columbia Blue Copper, and you can see that coppery rose gold shimmer even in the writing sample. It's dreamy. It reminds me of like almost like a twilight, not like a twilight sky, but like, you know, when the sun's going down, but it's still kind of blue and it has the stars. That's what it reminds me of, and it's so pretty. And then we had Ferris Wheel Press Tumbling Time Blue, which as you can see has that blue silver shimmer, that bright red sheen. It is a very interesting ink, and I can totally see why it is so loved by the Ferris Wheel Press community. And even with the writing in the glass tip pen and that red sheen picking up, if you had this in a double broad or a broad pen, it would be stunning, absolutely stunning. And then we had the last one, which was the Arctic Blast. I'm serious, guys. If you were interested in getting one of the Diamine Inkvent for the 2022, the green one, Arctic Blast is definitely my number 2. Solar Storm is still my number 1, but Arctic Blast just, it's so cool. And like, I'll see if I can get it to do the chameleon thing on camera, but it's almost like a green to blue shimmer on it. It is so pretty. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on camera. Let me see if I turn it this way. Okay, you can kind of see it there, just a little teeny tiny bit where it's green to blue a little bit. But it is so beautiful. Ugh. Honestly, any of these inks deserve a full bottle, but I don't think I could make it through that many full bottles of blue inks. But let me know which one you liked the most in the comments. I'm definitely still stuck between the Vinta Dugong 𝗏𝗏 and then the Organic Studio Nitrogen. Just the red sheen is so vibrant and so beautiful. If I had to pick a more muted one, like that I would be using in a work environment, it would definitely be between the Private Reserve American and even the Sailor Manyo Konagi. Both of those are really solid choices. And then, of course, crowd favorites, Pilot Iroshizuku Compact Key. If you are interested in more content from me, please feel free to follow me over on Instagram. I post there pretty regularly. I even share swatches before these videos go up. And you can always vote and send me messages and tell me which videos you want to see next. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. I had fun making this, even though I dumped ink and got it all over my hands. But it's part of the game. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.